companies that are using today to prepare for tomorrow are going to be the winners.
I wasn't even really in the business prior to 2008 and then the build up to that and then the fall off. But can you speak to the similarities between what happened then and what happened now? And I know, it drives me crazy because, I'm sure you experienced this coming into this. If you go on the internet, go on YouTube, everybody's like, the housing market's going to crash. It's going to crash, going to crash. And, I call that recency bias only because the most recent downturn that we experienced was because of housing specifically. And that's why it occurred. But this has nothing to do with that. And, it's related, of course, and it's adjacent, but it certainly was not the cause. So what have you seen just experiencing both?
One thing that's interesting, and I happened to, through the crisis, I was impacted from an employment perspective because I was employed by one of the banks that wasn't too big to fail.
Yes.
So they let us fail.
And you failed. Yes.
I have a different perspective because I lived through not only the horror of the crisis itself, but then the
repercussions
the real impact of employment being ceased. Right? So, to me, there's a couple of differences. One is, the 2007 through 9 or 10 or however long it lasted. You saw it coming in late 06, early 07. It was starting to happen because it started with products starting to go away, right? The risky products started to get cut and go away, and then everything seized up. So it was happening over 16, 18, 24 months.
So being in the business, you actually could see it. Maybe people from the outside didn't see it, but if you were in the business doing it, you could get the vibe was changing, is what you're saying.
Totally. Okay. Especially if you were in the space that was mostly impacted early, which was the Alt-A product space. This cycle hasn't had that kind of long buildup, right? It actually had the opposite.
It just happened overnight.
Yeah. And one could argue, you and I talked a little bit about this before we went live, our industry, the mortgage industry specifically, was ripe for consolidation, and COVID and the pandemic and all of the programs that came about really bailed out the industry. And so what's happening today from an industry perspective with, consolidation and loan officers leaving the business and realtors leaving the business is something that was due to happen. Those of us that survive it, by the way, guys like you and I, we talked about this as well before we went live. We tend to be more optimistic and more positive and think about opportunities versus gloom and doom and woe is me.
You have to be.
If you wake up and it's all about, your Eeyore walking around, complaining about everything, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get what you're asking.
Right.
So
life is what you make it.
I believe that our industry needed to kind of have a culling, and it's happening. I do believe that people are always going to buy and sell houses. It happens no matter what. It's just a matter of at what level, at what scale. And there's going to be there'll be another quote unquote boom or boomlet that happens. And companies that are using today to prepare for tomorrow are going to be the winners. Yeah. And so, it's happening. I'm talking to people that are literally investing, maybe not a lot of dollars, but a lot of energy into how to be prepared for this business and the next generation home buyer and home financing.